the woman in your life.
All around America, gays and lesbians were being discriminated against, and their rights were being denied. Starting in the 1960s, the Castro district in San Francisco began transitioning from a working-class Irish Catholic neighborhood to a tolerant community where they made their home. The Castro became a thriving homosexual community.
We were coming from a place of feeling so bad about ourselves, our self-esteem. There was a sense of worthlessness because that's what we were told all our childhood, that we were worthless. And when the idea of confronting and holding responsible those who are making you miserable was empowering.
In a gay bar in New York called Stonewall, a riot occurred on June 27, 1969, that marked the beginning of the gay liberation across America. The Stonewall riots started with the police coming to attack and arrest homosexuals of the Stonewall bar. In 1969, it was against the law to serve a drink to a known homosexual, and it was illegal for same-sex couples to hold hands. For this reason, the police would regularly raid gay bars. Stonewall marked the first time that the homosexual community fought back against police raids. In San Francisco, on June 27, 1970, 20 to 30 people marched down Polk Street from Aquatic Park to City Hall in San Francisco's first Gay Pride March. This event was called Christopher Street Liberation Day as a one-year anniversary of the Stonewall riots. The annual event celebrating the Stonewall riots was officially called the Gay Freedom Day Parade. It was held every year on June 23rd to 24th. The 1973 parade gathered 42,000 people. The theme was a celebration of the gay experience. During the first gay pride parades, gay men and lesbians were together in the fight.
The early 70s, we were all together when the movement was launched. And then by the mid-70s, there was a bit of separatism between the men and the women.
Lesbians had to fight the sexism of the gay men just like they would have any place else. The gay men were sexist. They had to be forced to include women as decision makers in that movement. And it took a while.
After 3 unsuccessful campaigns, Harvey Milk was elected to the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. He became the first openly gay official elected to public office in California's history. Harvey Milk moved to San Francisco in 1972, along with the migration of homosexuals to the Castro district. He used the growing political power of the homosexual community of San Francisco and decided to run for supervisor. He was nicknamed the mayor of Castro Street. Milk became one of the most influential figures in the gay and lesbian movement in America. One of the most important opposers of gay rights was Anita Bryant. Her anti-gay campaign took off around 1977. She created a campaign called Save Our Children, one of the first major oppositions to gay rights activists. She believed that homosexuality was a sin.
If homosexuals are allowed their civil rights, then so would prostitutes or thieves or anyone else.
Bryant led several campaigns around the country to repeal local anti-discrimination ordinances against homosexuals. In 1978, the Briggs Initiative, or California's Proposition 6, sponsored by a conservative state legislator named John Briggs, was put on the state ballot. The failed proposition, if passed, would have banned gays and lesbians and even some people who supported gay rights from working in California's public schools. A group of activists, including Gwen Craig, Bill Cross, Harvey Milk, Tommy Amiano, and Hank Wilson, came up with the slogan, come out wherever you are," urging homosexuals to come out and tell people their sexual orientation to defeat Prop 6.
Those people are going to be in danger of being removed from their job.
The Briggs Initiative was defeated November 7, 1978.
That was a turning point for the movement, that the public was willing to say, the public had been educated enough to know, I don't think we want to pass a law saying that people can't teach.
The 1978 Gay Freedom Day Parade drew 240,000 people. For the event, Gilbert Baker designed the first rainbow flag, and it became an international symbol of LGBT pride. Harvey Milk initiated a gay rights ordinance for the city of San Francisco. The ordinance extended employment protections to gays and lesbians in San Francisco. 6 weeks after the gay rights ordinance was passed, San Francisco City Supervisor Dan White assassinated Harvey Milk and Mayor Moscone in their offices. Tens of thousands of people marched in a spontaneous candlelight vigil from Castro to the Civic Center. Although Harvey Milk had a very short career, he became a national icon, and he became known as a martyr for gay rights. To Harvey Milk, it was important that all homosexuals come out, or, like the famous slogan said, come out of the closet. He believed that their invisibility was the reason for the negative stigma against them.
I have never considered myself a candidate. I have always considered myself part of a movement.
Dan White was convicted of manslaughter, the lightest sentence possible for the murder of 2 people.
That's our justice system. He got away with it. 8 years. If you kill a public official, especially if I did, what would I get?
I'm an old lady. I won't be here very much longer. And I would not like to be here and see him walking the streets.
You don't want him to get out?
No. After killing 2 men, no.
Where are those martyrs? Matthew Shepard, Harvey Milk, they were all killed because they're gay or lesbian. I mean, that's a real-life threat.
On May 21, 1979, Milk's friend Cleve Jones spoke out to about 500 people assembled on Castro Street. He said, "Today, Dan White was essentially patted on the back. He was convicted of manslaughter, what you get for a hit and run. We all know this violence has touched all of us. It was not manslaughter. I was there that day at City Hall. I saw that violence did. It was not manslaughter. It was murder." He gathered people from around the Castro screaming out of the bars and into the streets. By the time the crowd reached City Hall, there was over 5,000 protesters. The crowd was breaking first-floor windows of City Hall. Cars were being put on fire and people were screaming and shouting. Then, police officers arrived to attack the crowd, but they were outnumbered. These protests came to be known as the White Night Riots.
But what happened as a result of the AIDS epidemic, the men and the women came back together. And the women were amazing caregivers.
At the beginning of the 1980s, reports started to emerge in California and New York of some men that had been diagnosed with rare forms of cancer and/or pneumonia. All these men were young and in relatively good health. The only other thing that they had in common was that they were all gay. By 1982, the new disease had acquired many names: GRID, gay-related immune deficiency, gay cancer, and gay compromise syndrome. This disease got its official name, AIDS, acquired immune deficiency syndrome, in July 1982. In the first years of AIDS, it was largely ignored by the government. Since people didn't really know how it was transmitted, there were widespread fears of contagion. There was a stigma against people with AIDS, so they were treated very poorly.
The right wing liked to link our lifestyle, that we deserved it. We deserved to die because we were gay and we were having sex. So this was punishment.
The gay community of San Francisco started to respond to the epidemic, creating food banks, marching down the streets to bring attention to the disease, creating projects to get funds for research, and fighting to get cures more accessible to people. The first AIDS Candlelight Memorial March was held on May 2, 1983. More marches like these bring the issue of HIV/AIDS to the attention of national leaders and encouraged people to take action. The NAMES Project, or the AIDS Memorial Quilt, was created by Cleve Jones in 1985. People created a patch for their loved ones that died of AIDS.
So they made all of these panels, and then they sewed them all together in this huge quilt, and they took it to Washington. And they unrolled it on the national lawn in front of the White House. And not just like hundreds, but thousands and thousands of panels, and each panel was a person. And I'm telling you, when you stood there and looked as far as you could see, you got it.
Even now, the fight for LGBT rights in California still goes on as we debate over same-sex marriage.